learning class for the subject Agriculture Finance, Banking and Cooperation. Today we are going to see about the revisions of part 2. So it covers after your mid-semester portions. So in this class we are going to see about cooperatives and their history and their structure we are going to see, and then central bank and its functions. So central bank of our India is RBI. We are going to see its functions and how it controls the credit supply, and then we are going to see about financial inclusion. So financial inclusion, what are the measures taken for financial inclusion, and then we are going to see about non-banking financial corporations, negotiable instruments and crop insurance schemes. So first we will see about cooperatives. So cooperatives is an voluntary association of persons for achieving a common goal. So it is not mandatory, so it is a voluntary association of persons of like-minded to achieve a common goal. So it has a very prominent success story of more than 100 years. So cooperatives plays a major role in India. So that is why they provide much credit to the agricultural community. So there are different types of cooperatives. The first one is credit cooperatives. They provide credit only. They provide money only to the its members. And producer cooperatives. Producer cooperatives, they voluntarily associate together to produce a particular crop or particular products, like sugar producer companies or paddy growers association, paddy producer cooperatives, like that. And consumer cooperatives. So consumer cooperatives, they meant for providing goods to the consumers at less rate. For example, TNSTC, Tamil Nadu State Transport Corporation, they have their own cooperatives where we can find goods at a lower rate. So that is to safeguard its members from consumption expenditures. Then marketing cooperatives. Marketing cooperatives refers for the marketing purpose only. It is especially for their members' product will be procured and it will be marketed. So example, our NAFED or TANFED, what they will do is they will procure the food grains or other commodities and they will distribute it or market it all over the nation. And then multi-purpose cooperatives. So if any one activity is carried, they are all called a single purpose commodity. When this all together or one or more functions carried, it is called multi-purpose cooperatives. That means they will provide credit also, they will work as a marketing cooperative also or producer cooperative also. So in this way it acts as multi-purpose cooperatives. Now let's see what is the principles of cooperation. So principle of cooperation, first one is it is open and voluntary. So everyone can join in a cooperative and it is voluntary. So it is not compulsory, it is voluntary. Then democratic principle, it runs on democratic principle. So each vote, one vote for each persons. So if someone is paying higher member amount, means they will not give much respect to them. Equal respect and equal chance will be given to every members, and it is service motive, not profit motive. Unlike other companies, it is service motive. It try to service its members. Then self-help and mutual help. So self-help through mutual help also we can tell, because they are helping themselves by mutual helping others too through cooperatives. Then distribution of profits and surpluses. The profits will be equally shared based on their contribution to the cooperative fund. Then political and religious neutrality. So they will not see any political or religious neutrality. Then thrift. So each member is requested to save some particular amount in the cooperative society as a regular savings, so as to run the cooperatives and also to distribute the profit and surpluses. Then we will say about the history of cooperatives. So first in the world, the cooperatives reported in England. So Rochdale pioneers were famous for their principles on cooperatives. So they have devised different principles. Later it has spread to other countries. So first it has originated in England, then only it came to US and France, etc. So in our country it has came in the year 1904. So from this period too, the cooperatives plays a major role. So they are all very much important structure in our country. So we are going to see the history in two parts. One is pre-independence period and post-independence period. So let's see pre-independence period. So that is initiation phase. So initiation phase, first and foremost, the Cooperative Societies Act, Cooperative Credit Societies Act 1904 came into existence. It was recommended by Sir Edward Law. So he was the coordinator of Indian Famine Commission in the year 1901, and he suggested that opening of cooperatives in the area, in the rural area and urban area based on their need would rectify the famine. So based on his recommendation, our government has introduced cooperatives in the year 1904. So they have followed two models. One is Raiffeisen model and Schultz-Delitzsch model. So Raiffeisen model is used in the rural areas where the liability is unlimited. That means they can give unlimited loans. So unlimited liability. The banks were provided with unlimited fund. So because when the agriculture develops in the rural area, the farmers can, or rural population can become better. Then Schultz-Delitzsch model was followed in urban areas where there is the limited liabilities. So there is limited liabilities. That means the loans sanctioned and everything is limited. So these two models were introduced in the year 1904. So as of this period from 1904 to 1912, only credit cooperative societies were there. That means they only provide credit. So after 1912, when they have passed Cooperative Societies Act 1912, they have provided options for starting all type of cooperatives like producer cooperative, marketing cooperative, etc. So this has provided an opportunity for other cooperatives or farmers to form many type of cooperatives, producer cooperatives, marketing cooperatives, processing cooperatives, etc. So in 1914, Edward McLachlan Committee, they have studied the performance of cooperative societies and they have come up with the problems like illiteracy among the members, fund misappropriation by the personals, and nepotism or favorism to their relatives, and irregular repayment of the loans sanctioned. And they have suggested that the members should be given education and fund misappropriation should be reduced or should be nullified. This nepotism and irregular payments are to be rectified by giving the personals training. So proper training should be given, like that they have suggested in their report. Then expansion phase. So from 1919 to 29, it was the golden era of the cooperatives, because the cooperatives become a provincial subject, that means the state's major concern. So Montague-Chelmsford Act that makes the cooperatives become a provincial subject. So they have given more attention to cooperatives in this period. So in 1924, the first land mortgage bank started in Punjab. Then in 1925 started in Madras, and later in 26 in Bombay they have started. So this was the golden era. Many other cooperatives also has grown. So in this period, then restructuring phase. So in 1929 there was a Great Depression happens in around all the country. So and our country also faced some problems. And then in 1931 a central banking inquiry committee came and they have told that delay in loan advances. So the funds were not with the government or in the cooperatives, so there is delay in advancing the loans, they have found. In 1932 Madras Cooperative Societies Act came, and 1934 Madras Cooperative Land Mortgage Banks Act came, and then in the year 1944 Agriculture Finance Subcommittee by Dr. D.R. Gadgil was formed, and they have found some of the problems and they have given some solutions also. So this was about the pre-independence era, and in post-independence era we will see from 1950. In 1950, after 1947, after we got independence, so in 1950 we formed Planning Commission. So after that, in 1951 All India Rural Credit Survey Committee under A.D. Gorwala was formed. So AIRCSC. So in short it is called as AIRCSC. So it was formed. He found that uneven distribution of credit. The credit has been given to the large farmers, not to the small and marginal farmers. And he has mentioned a word that cooperation has failed miserably in India, but it must succeed because we have no other option. So he has suggested that the cooperation must succeed. So after that our government has taken initiatives like providing National Cooperative Development and Warehousing Board. So under this we have developed a Central Warehousing Corporation and State Warehousing Corporation in 1957 and 58. So this is also a cooperative institutions. So in 1959 a Committee on Cooperative Credit where under chairmanship of V.L. Mehta came. In 1962 Committee on Takavi Loan. We know that Takavi loan is government loan that has been provided in unnatural conditions. So in 1962 we have a committee on Takavi loans and cooperative credit. In 1963, so NCDC came into force, National Cooperative Development Corporation. So it is the development corporation for all the cooperatives. So National Federation of Cooperative Sugar Factories also formed in the same year. So in 1966, All India Rural Credit Review Committee. So previous one we have seen AIRCSC survey committee, and this one is review committee. So review committee was under B. Venkattapaya. So he has found most major problems, and he has come up with forming Small Farmers Development Authority and Marginal Farmers and Agricultural Labourers Development Authority and Rural Electrification Corporation. So these three things in the year 1969 he has suggested to our government, and they all came into force. In the year 1969 to 74, IFCO, Indian Farmer Fertilizer Cooperative Limited in Gujarat has started, and we know that in 1973 and 71 in the years LAMPS and FSS were introduced. For they are all, the LAMPS is a multi-purpose society. We have seen that different types of society. Example for multi-purpose society is LAMPS, because it acts as both the credit supplying agency and the advisory or producer marketing cooperatives. So in 1992-2007 we have made several changes, like a single window system we have made in Andhra Pradesh, and milk cooperatives in Anand, Gujarat in 1992 or 93 in the years. So after that we are going to see about cooperative structure. So there are 2-tier structure and 3-tier structure for efficient credit supply. So cooperatives have followed a 2-tier structure for sanctioning long-term loans. So long-term loans are having a period of more than 10 years. So it was supplied through 2 banks. One is Primary Cooperative Agricultural and Rural Development Bank, and another one is State Cooperative Agricultural and Rural Development Bank. So NABARD will sanction cooperative credit to the State Cooperative Bank and State Cooperative Bank will give to SCORD B, and SCORD B will provide money to PCORD B. So thus the credit supply will be there. Similarly, for short and medium term credits, so NABARD will sanction loan to SCBs, and SCB will provide to district central cooperative banks, and state district cooperative banks will give it to the primary agricultural cooperative credit societies or banks. So thus we get fund from the banks. So the farmers will get it from PACS or PACCB. So then we are moving to the next topic, that is central bank. So central bank of our nation is nothing but RBI. So as that of Federal Bank of US, we have our RBI. So RBI has the sole functions like money supply, monetary policy and fiscal policy. These 3 things were major functions of a central bank. So money supply, we know that the money supply is carried out through 4 different places for minting the coins and different currencies, etc. So this money supply and money demand is created by us, and money supply is done by none other than RBI. So monetary policy means it will the government will decide how much money to be in circulation, how much money is needed to avoid the inflation or avoid deflation, avoid growth inhibitions, like that. So that is called monetary policy. Fiscal policy means it involves the tax revenues. So how much tax should be collected, like that they will decide. So these two were the major role of RBI. So as we came to credit control measures, the credit is controlled by these measures like CRR, cash reserve ratio. So cash, a part of the deposit from a commercial bank should be kept with the RBI. So as cash reserve ratio, a part of currency, cash should be kept with RBI. For example, when the bank has 100 rupees, it has to deposit 3 rupees to the bank RBI. Then SLR, saturatory liquid ratio. So saturatory liquid ratio means the bank bank itself has to maintain a liquidity ratio of 18%. Liquidity means the goods with easy convertibility into cash, like gold or bonds, shares, like that. So gold or cashes should be 18%. That means out of it has 100 rupees, it has to save 18 rupees. Then repo rate is nothing but the rate at which RBI lend to other banks, other commercial banks. So RBI will provide loan to commercial banks. So that rate is called as repo rate. The same, when commercial banks provide loan to RBI, it is called reverse repo rate. So these percentages were given as on 26th May 2020. So it was previously 4%, cash reserve ratio was 3%, and the statutory liquid ratio was 20%. So reverse repo rate or repo rate were higher. But in order to flood the money into the society, the RBI has reduced the reserve ratios. So as the public will get a loan from the banks and they will develop some employment futures, thus the economy grows. So this is the measure they have adopted to control the credit supply. So when they think that the inflation is high or the credit supply is high, they will increase these rates. When they increase these rates, they have less money to lend us, because when we can see that, so they have to pay around 25 rupees. They have to save 25 rupees out of 100 rupees deposited. So with the remaining 75 only, they can give loan, etc. So this will reduce the availability of our giving loan by a commercial bank. So when this were reduced, the credit supply will be more. When they have increased, the credit supply will be less. Then we are going to see about financial inclusion. So financial inclusion is nothing but access to financial service and at any time, and adequate credit supply where and whenever needed by vulnerable groups such as weaker section of the society, like our farmers, so our agriculture people. So for this we have introduced KCC, Kisan Credit Card, in the year 1998. So through this, the farmer need not go to the bank for taking loans. The loan will be sanctioned by producing Sitta or Panta. After that, he does not require to go to the bank. He can take it from the ATM, the ATM machine, by using the credit card wherever and whenever he needed. So the next core banking concept also we know that. So in core banking we can take money from any bank. So for example, if we have availed loan from PACS or RRB, we can take the amount from any commercial banks, ATMs also. So that is called core banking. And internet banking facilities also giving comes under financial inclusion. Mobile banking, etc. are called as the financial inclusions. Then credit gap. So credit gap means the gap between the institutional credit and its reachability to the farmers or the needy people. So this is major concern. So due to lack of knowledge or due to the stringent measures, the credit gap is formed. So we have to reduce the credit gap in order to boost our economy. So then non-performing assets. Non-performing assets is a type of loans that has not paying the repayments properly. So in our agriculture, the farmers may think that the loan will get cancelled or it will be relieved like that. So due to that non-performing assets formed in agriculture sector is high. So in numbers, but the amount will be very less only. So non-performing asset is the non-repaying accounts, non-repaying loans. So this also has to be reduced by giving proper education on loan. The farmer can able to reduce his thought on not repaying, and he can start repaying the loans. Then we are going to say about NBFIs, non-banking financial institution or financial companies. So the name itself means that it is a company, so it must come under Companies Act 1956. So they are companies that provide service as that of banks, but they are all non-banks. They also has to be registered with the RBI and or other regulatory bodies. So when they have amount of 200 lakhs or more, they can form these non-banking financial institutions. So there are different types of non-banking financial institutions, like housing financing institution. They have to register under National Housing Board, and merchant banking or stocks broker are there. They have to register under Security Exchange Board of India, SEBI. And nidhis and mutual benefit companies, they have to register under Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And chit funds, they have under control of state government. And for insurance companies, they have to be registered under Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority. So we know that this institution should register under this institutions or regulatory bodies. So we know that some examples are Manappuram Gold Finance and Bajaj Finserv and Mahindra Insurance. So when we take a car loan or bike loan, they themselves will provide the credit. So these are all, we have to make sure that they are all coming under these regulatory bodies. And we are going to say about negotiable instruments. So negotiable instrument is when the technology has developed, people find it difficult to carry money to all the places they transact. So they have made a contract, specialized type of contract, that is called negotiable instrument. So by using that, they can give the money later by negotiation. So that is why it is called Negotiable Instrument Act, negotiable instruments, and it has been effective since Negotiable Instrument Act 1881. So types of negotiable instruments are check. So we give check instead of giving money, we give check. So the bearer check or the bill check, they will claim it in the bank. Then bills of exchange. So there are two types here. The bills can be made for a person or for an order. For example, if we are purchasing computers for our department, it can be given to the person name for a particular person, or it can be given for the order. So it the order number they can give for the order given by your institute, like that they can give. So bills of exchange. Then promissory notes. So promissory note, we know that, so it is a promissory note undersigned by two parties. One is promised to pay another some amount of money, either in a particular time period or after a particular time period. So then hundis. So hundis are a special type of negotiable instruments. When the bearer produces the hundis, the person who is having larger value in the market will provide him the money. So that is type of hundi. Then and finally we are going to see about the crop insurance schemes. So crop insurance means, so it is the risk transferring method. So by transferring risk, the farmer can get benefit. So in 1973, in 1948 itself, our farmers has found difficulty in growing crops. So there itself the study on crop insurance came. So in 1973 only, Government of India has set up General Insurance Corporation based on the recommendation of Professor Dandekar. So this General Insurance Corporation has made a pilot analysis on insurance only for H4 cotton, H4 variety of cotton, and it has later extended to West Bengal, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. So it has first started in Gujarat. So Gujarat on pilot basis. After this successful, they have later extended it to West Bengal, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. So this was the pilot one or the pioneer one. So after that we have many schemes. So important schemes we can see. So comprehensive crop insurance scheme. Comprehensive means it is whole package. So it has introduced in the year 1985. So it covers major food crops, and it covers all the loanee farmers. Those who are got loan from the bank will be covered under the crop insurance. So after that many pilot schemes came, but the major one is National Agricultural Insurance Scheme. So it came into force in the year 1999. So it has provided all loanee farmers or non-loanee farmers, whoever the farmer has grown the crop, can avail crop insurance. like that it has mentioned, and the premium payment were reduced in this period. So then the major introduction of scheme is Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So it is Prime Minister Crop Insurance Scheme. It was introduced in February 2016. So it has provided for the commercial crops also. So the loan premiums were nationally uniform. So all the states it has same crop insurance amount. Then the special type of insurance, that is called WBCS, that is weather based crop insurance scheme. So this weather based crop insurance scheme provides the farmers based on the weather conditions of the area. So they have a reference weather area or weather unit. Through this they will have reference units. With this interaction of between these things, they will measure the deviations like drought or shortage of rainfall, etc., and they will provide the loan to the insured farmers. So this processing of this loan insurance sanction is very short compared to other sanctioning methods. So thank you. We have seen the part 2 of agriculture finance and cooperation class. Thank you.